Hi, this is Pilar Kellenbarger from Collecting Our Angels, Nurturing Our Children. So, moms, I know you need a break, so here's a wonderful time to go get a cup of coffee or something and let me read to your children. So, hello, my name is Mrs. K, and this is one of my favorite stories from Frog and Toad. So, let me read it to you. So, kick back and get a nice pillow or comforter, and let's begin. This one is called A Lost Button. Toad and Frog went for a long walk. They walked around a large meadow. They walked in the woods, they walked along the river. At last, they went back home to Toad's house. Oh, drat, said Toad. Not only do my feet hurt, but I have lost one of the buttons on my jacket. Don't worry, said Frog. We will go back to all the places where we walked. We will soon find your button. We walked back to the large meadow, or they did. They began to look for the button in the tall grass. Here's your button, cried Frog. That is not my button, said Toad. That button is black. My button was white. Toad put the black button in his pocket. A sparrow flew down. Excuse me, said the sparrow. Did you lose a button? I found one. That is not my button, said Toad. That button has two holes. My button had four holes. Toad put the button with two holes in his pocket. They went back to the woods and looked on the dark paths. Here is your button, said Frog. That is not my button, cried Toad. My button is small. That button is small. My button was big. Toad put the small button in his pocket. A raccoon came out from behind a tree. I heard that you were looking for a button, he said. Here is one that I just found. That is not my button, wailed Toad. That button is square. My button is was round. Toad put the square button in his pocket. Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. Here is your button, said Frog. That is not my button, shouted Toad. That button is thin. My button was thick. Toad put the thin button in his pocket. He was very angry. He jumped up and down and screamed. The whole world is covered with buttons, and not one of them is mine. Toad ran home and slammed the door. There, on the floor, he saw his white, four-holed, big, round, thick button. Oh, said Toad, it was here all the time. What a lot of trouble I have made for Frog. Toad took all the buttons out of his pocket. He took his sewing box down from the shelf. Toad sewed the buttons all over his jacket. The next day, Toad gave his jacket to Frog. Frog thought it was beautiful. He put it on and jumped for joy. None of the buttons fell off. Toad had sewed them on very well. I hope you enjoyed that one. I love, love, love Frog and Toad. So I'm going to keep doing some reading, different books. You can find me on YouTube or on Collecting Our Angels, Nurturing Our Children. That is my website, and I'm going to be putting it on Facebook.